The Ole Miss Rebels with a 20-10 win over Georgia. It was ugly, Matt. Bad.
Yeah, this was a total, complete team loss. Offense, defense, special tems,
Offensive
coaching.
line.
Offensive line played awful. The receivers are still dropping passes. The game's been over for 3 hours. It was a really, really bad day. Got off to a great start. They got up 7-0. Dan Jackson interception. Georgia runs 6 out of 7 times. They find the end zone at 7-0 with a blink of an eye. Ole Miss scores a touchdown. They answer back at 7-7, and they kind of take control the rest of the game. They didn't just squeak by Georgia. They were clearly the better team. And like we said earlier, I mean, Georgia's only touchdown came on a short field at the very beginning of the game. 10 points is unacceptable, but then you dig into it. 7 of those 10 points came on that first drive that the defense set them up. The defense didn't play great. They only gave up 2 touchdowns. They could have played better, but Ryan, this is about the offense, the offensive line, the receivers, that whole group, including Carson Beck. They were bad today. That was bad football that we saw, and it's unacceptable.
Yeah, to me it's embarrassing. That's my word for this. I think that Georgia should be embarrassed because at the end of the day, I do think it probably is a little bit better of a team. It wasn't at all today. They let the backup quarterback come in there and just dice them up, down the field, quick score. That was the problem with the defense. The defense wasn't as big of a problem as the offense was, but they just allowed Jackson Dart to sit there, make quick decisions, and pick apart all the zones. I mean, it was very easy for Jackson Dart. They disrupted him on that first drive. It looked like, oh man, this might be like Texas. This might be a long night for Jackson Dart and this Ole Miss offense. Sack, interception, and then
that was it.
That was all of the disrupting that Georgia did for pretty much the entire game. Like Matt said, they score on that short field the way that they did against Texas. I think we are getting to the point where, does this team have it or not? Is this team actually a championship contender? Because what we've been saying to you over and over again is, look, yeah, they could lose. They can lose to Alabama. They can lose to this. They can still do it. Georgia can still make the playoff. They're not knocked out of this thing yet. Georgia can still be the team that wins the national championship. But now we're starting to get to the point where inconsistent play, bad offensive play against Florida. For the most part, not great offensive play against Texas. And then you can pick apart the other games. Not great against Kentucky. And it piles on, it piles on, it piles on. Sometimes I wonder if us in this car make excuses for the team a little bit. Sometimes if we have a blind spot. If we do, I think it's off now. This team needs to play significantly better if it's going to win the national championship. Specifically, it needs to run better. Carson Beck doesn't have a chance. He doesn't have a chance. He doesn't have time to throw. Ernest Green got beat a bunch tonight. Not to pick on just Ernest Green, because I think as a group, the offensive line didn't have a good day. He was just one that I noticed coming around on the left side, coming around on Carson Beck's blind side. He felt the pressure sometimes. It didn't matter if he felt it sometimes. This was not the worst Carson Beck game by far. He's played worse this year. He had good moments tonight. I didn't think he had a terrible moment, but he could have been a little bit better. It would have helped Georgia. There just wasn't as much he could do. And something that we talked about just before we got on camera, they didn't pass the ball downfield at all. At all. I don't know what the longest air yards that Carson threw tonight was on a completion or incompletion. It couldn't have been more than 30, even if it was across the field. I don't know if it shows their longest completion on here. Long, 29. 29 to Cash Jones. It was that on a good drive where they ended up kicking a field goal. They, comeback effort fell a little bit short at the end there. They end up throwing an interception on 4th and 10. It just wasn't a good day for Georgia. It just wasn't a good day.
All right. So, the better team won for sure. Secondly, if Georgia's offense is not going to run the ball, their season's going to be over before Christmas. Okay? So that's that.
Quickly, can I add real quick, Dean? They rushed for 1.8 yards a carry.
Yeah, it was 59 yards.
Their longest run came on a Dylan Bell little sweep for 12 yards. That was it.
Hey, yeah, and the sack, if you put the sack yards back in there, it was still only 79 yards, which is their worst of the season.
All right, so you're getting your ass whipped up front. That's why you lost on the offensive line. Defense, I think, still is hanging in there, but they need Taylor Ratledge to be healthy and play. He's not playing the way as much as he needs to be. That's one thing. But Tate can't play 5 positions. I see Drew Bobo out there. They're rotating people left and right. It seems like they're doing that because they can't find it. They're looking for it. But they I don't know if they've gotten worse as a team. They've gotten worse as an offense, it feels like. But there's no explosion. This is a slightly better version of the 2019 offense. We had the rug pulled over our eyes about what this offensive line could do. I don't know what's happening on the offensive line. It's not good enough. They gave up 5 sacks tonight. Y'all talked for a while, and now I feel like I need to talk for a while, but I do want to say that we met 2 people, Chris and his mother, Yvonne. That was really nice to see. When we see, I can't look at the camera right now because I'm driving, but it's so, we really value that. This is what we do, right? And it is what we do for a living, but it's fun. And it occurred to me while I was talking with the 2 of them that we don't have Larry Munson anymore. And we're not Larry Munson, but a lot of people are growing up with listening to us talk about Georgia. And just as a person, I feel I value that, okay? So that's something that I want to say. And it was great to see them, to talk to them. They live not that far from where one side of my family's from, and it was great to see them. I'm sure they're disappointed tonight. I thought this would be a tricky game. It's bizarre because, Georgia was the betting favorite to win the national championship 6 days ago. And now Ryan's talking about them not making the playoff. And they might not make the playoff. I mean, if they lose to Tennessee, they won't. And even if they beat Tennessee...
Well, for the record, I do think they will beat Tennessee and make the playoff in this moment.
It's time, guys. It's time for these guys to play to their potential. Now, their potential might not be more than what we're seeing right now, but they can still win the national championship, this team. They just shouldn't be favored. And the offensive line is derelict in its duties right now. They're not getting the job done. You want to hate Mike Bobo? I think you want to hate Mike Bobo. Okay. I'm not down with hating Carson Beck right now. That guy, he's fighting all he can. I saw the thing from Barstool, and I admire what Barstool has done. Dog Post is somewhat like Barstool, but when you put shit like that out there about how he's laughing, come on, man. You look like assholes when you do that sort of stuff. And and I understand it's a little bit of the brand of Barstool, but be better than that. That's just the way Carson Beck is. He's not laughing because they're losing. I got more to say about a lot of different stuff, particularly the storming of the field. But it's just, they got their ass whipped tonight. And now they got to play Tennessee, which is a great opportunity, Matt. And then they'll play UMass, which is not as much a great opportunity. But with the Jackets beating Miami, you still have an opportunity, it seems. I saw where Clemson won. My wife has not yet texted me. She's probably not happy because they played like trash.
Well, they were down 7-0.
But they won.
The final?
They won the game.
What was the final?
24 to. And they're not. That's like a total JV league.
Yeah. No. I agree with you. Listen, you got to catch the ball with your hands. Also, it's hard to catch the ball with your chest.
I'm trying to drink, Matt.
It's so much easier to catch the football with your hands. You got these bad boys right here. You can also secure the football, Ryan. But they're dropping more passes than anyone in college football.
They don't have playmakers.
They don't have the guys. They don't have the talent. They don't have the skill. And
when you can't run.
Yeah, it's just they've got to have better players. Thankfully, there's this transfer portal, and I know they went and got London Humphreys, who he's not an impact guy. But here's the thing, not an impact guy. They need better players, and that's not a bad thing to say. Most of the time, the team with the best players wins the championship, and that happened in 21 and 22. Georgia doesn't have the best players. Far from it, as we've seen.
Far from it is aggressive. On offense they don't.
On offense, yeah. On offense. Defensively, I thought they played hard I thought Ole Miss did a good job of taking what Georgia was giving them, which was a lot. It felt like Georgia just didn't want to give up an explosive play, and they played safe in coverage. And Jackson Dart said, "Okay, I'll take that 10-yard comeback route underneath that you'll take."
Ole Miss kicked too many field goals tonight, man.
They kicked 5. And I will say this.
That's too much.
Those 5 alone are more than the 10 points Georgia.
I could hit a 50-yarder against Georgia. Everyone that kicks against the Dogs will connect. They've had some terrible luck in that department. Everyone is Luke Rosa against the Dogs this year. It is crazy.
Wow.
But I thought Ole Miss, their front 7 was really good. They've got NFL guys there, and I think you have to give them a lot of credit. Georgia didn't play well. But if you're Ole Miss, that's as well as you could possibly play.
What did Lane say after the game?
Lane said, we were preparing for Georgia in the offseason. They embarrassed us, and he said we had to get bigger on both sides of the trenches, and we did because Georgia whipped our ass. And the opposite kind of happened today, and Georgia's got to go do that now. Lane Kiffin looked himself in the mirror after that Georgia lost last year and said, you know what, I know what I need to do to play with these guys and possibly beat them. Kirby's got to say, hey, how do we get better? We need better players, and that's what they need to address in the offseason.
And they outcoached them.
100%. Glenn Schumann dialed up some blitzes, but they didn't get to the quarterback, and Jackson Dart says, I've got a wide-open running back here since they blitz. No one's covering him. Let me get it to that guy. Their offensive line held up a lot better than I thought they would in this game. Georgia's different. Georgia's offensive line got manhandled. And Carson Beck had no time back there to throw, and that's why I think you saw a lot of those bubble and tunnel screens, like 15 of them today. Most of them didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, Mike's not calling those because I know Mike Bobo. He wants to throw the ball deep and run it. That's what he wants to do, but
he knew they could.
You can't make cookies when you don't have butter. I mean, like, right now they're missing
awful cookies.
Well, we need sugar and butter and flour. I mean, there's some basics here, Ryan, and vanilla, and like I can go through it. I make a really nice cookie, but
you gotta have guys who can catch the football.
Next,
that's one ingredient.
There's not one. It's not just one problem. There's a lot going on. But offensively, they're just. This one thing affects the other thing, and this affects that, and altogether, that's why they're just not playing on offense. They did not play well on offense.
Why did UGA only have half the carries of Frazier? I mean, he's not.
He was definitely banged up.
They're not well still.
They're not.
Ole Miss is not as beat up as I thought they were.
No,
all those questionable players made a lot of plays today.
But being banged up is part of the game, and it's been part of the game for Georgia this year.
Why do you think they're going to beat Tennessee?
It's at home at night, and it's hard to win in those environments. Now, they could be on a downward spiral, and that continues.
Would really be an indictment of Kirby, though. I mean,
depth.
Huh?
And that's on Kirby.
No one has depth, though. They really don't. I mean, look, we're seeing Alabama take hold of this LSU thing. I'm not surprised by that. I mean, what we're going to get here, y'all, is a logjam either with Tennessee or the Tennessee-Georgia winner, the Alabama-LSU winner, and Ole Miss are going to be all looking around in A&M and Texas. Someone's getting left out. Like, the SEC's not getting Texas, A&M, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Alabama all in. They're not going to get in.
Could you have a 4-team battle royale and just have them all play?
Well, I think if you're Georgia...
just say, hey, we'll have our own little playoff over here.
I think if you're Georgia in that scenario... You've lost to Ole Miss and Alabama, but in that scenario, you would have wins over Texas, Tennessee, and in theory, Clemson, if that matters. So you would have really good quality wins. That Ole Miss has Georgia and
South Carolina.
Right. They don't have the same pedigree of wins, but they have that particular win. And, Tennessee wouldn't really. I keep saying Tennessee. It can't be Tennessee and Georgia, so I misspoke a minute ago. A&M, Texas, Georgia, and Alabama, or Alabama and Tennessee and Texas A&M. 4 teams may well get in. And to be honest with you, and I'm going to start getting really pissed off right now, if we don't seed 4 SEC teams in, we got a problem.
What's that problem?
Well, it's just not real.
Yeah, no, that is not.
I mean, it's just not. If we're not going to have...
Because you could legitimately argue there needs to be at least 5 in there. And
I think you could make the argument there's 5. I mean, Tennessee, I'm knocking Tennessee out because they have 2 losses. They beat Alabama. Like, what does that not count? I mean, so you will. I think with Georgia, if Georgia were to beat Tennessee, I expect them to beat Tennessee. I warned everyone about this. I picked Georgia like a dumbass. I should not have. But for me, it was like flashing lights. And then I got to see how they play as they move forward, man. Like, if Etienne's healthy, does that make a difference? If Dylan's not Dylan Fairchild, if Mullet is, if Tate is
Mullet.
I'm just saying what I can't remember. There's 85 guys on these teams, y'all. I'm driving in the back roads of Mississippi. These roads they're
fine right now.
Can we talk about the field storming, or
we can't? Well, Georgia's having the kind of season that Ole Miss normally has, or these other. They've had the last few years of really competing at a super high level, and they're still competing at a high level. But this is definitely a little bit of a step down. The field storming, we were both in it. Never experienced that before.
Okay.
It was something.
Comments.
The goalpost. I gotta say, I think it took you guys a little too long to take it down. I thought that
they don't do it very often. So this was a new thing.
So that you were being told that this was their best win ever.
I had an Ole Miss fan.
They were acting like
tell me that this was the biggest win, maybe that guy has ever seen
in program history.
But I said, where does this line up in program history? And maybe it was immediately after the game and the winning and all. He said this number one.
Well, Ole Miss is
because they're in the playoff. And that's what his thing is.
Well,
they
we'll
stamped
see.
their ticket.
They're not there
They got to
yet.
finish the job.
They're not there yet, but
everybody's got to finish the job.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is these last few weeks, Georgia's going to play its last SEC game in 7 days. Everybody else got like 2 or 3 to go, and
they're off. I don't know who they have before Mississippi State, but they're off next week.
Yeah, but they go to Florida, which they should win that game. But I'm just saying they lost to Kentucky, so there's that. Now that would be epically bad. I don't think epically is a word. I know epic. That would be epic in a bad way. But I thought.
Do you want? The student section was a little bit misbehaved, right?
So I wanted to talk about that, and I want to kind of destroy some of this bullshit narrative about Ole Miss. And I know what it's from. I grew up in the South. I grew up by Stone Mountain. I get it. I'm not saying I support it, but I get it, okay? And then we come here, and everybody's supposed to be nice, and we're going to hear about the Grove, which is completely overrated, as I said. And y'all want to agree or disagree?
I thought it would be crazier.
Slightly overrated. It was cool, but slightly overrated.
How is it?
It was just normal condensed tailgating. That's all it was.
Yeah.
So then I hear, the student section, we're at Mississippi, where we've been led to believe there's Southern hospitality and all this. And I texted y'all what the students were saying. And it's like, man, that's pretty aggressive for a team that you don't ever play. Like, people hate Carson Beck. And it's really dumb, I have to say. But the way that the notion of Southern hospitality, and when you think about Ole Miss, you're supposed to, I think typically of, the Old South. I think it's pretty easy to understand that part. And then, but then you look around and you see the way people are acting and hear what they're saying, and you're like, man, this is not a good look for this place. And the students, I thought in particular before the game, some of the language, I don't hear that at Georgia. I don't hear that at places besides South Carolina. I'll say it. Screaming F-U Georgia and F-U Carson Beck, it's just like, why do you care about Carson Beck? Like, you don't play, they're not rivals of yours. It doesn't make any sense to me. Now, that meant they were ready to go, and I get that, but like, a young lady shouldn't be saying that. And, I'm sorry. Did that hurt your feelings or something?
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
You some frat guy.
No, there's plenty of frat-tastic, whole deal, and that's fine.
You got sorority broads yelling at a car.
There was a lot of inappropriate, discussion.
With an accent or no accent? Did they have a little twang in their accent too?
Well, my wife probably has the biggest Southern accent of anyone around, and what I want to stop, just as a Southerner, but someone who's married to someone who's quite Southern. I want to get rid of because you have an accent, you're stupid. Because I can assure you, my wife is not. But I got to tell you tonight, and I know one of my family's closest friends is an Ole Miss. She loves Ole Miss and grew up in Mississippi, but like when you see all the stereotypes sort of come to fruition when you're sitting there listening, you're like, we got to be better than this. But we weren't. And then we had some asshole kid with an Alabama shirt storming the field talking shit to the Georgia players. And I'm like, hey, bro, you're at an Ole Miss game? You got an Alabama gear on? But then you're in Malachi Stark's face and CJ Allen's face. These guys are going to take your shit out with one. Why are you like these kids do not belong on the field? Storming the field is never acceptable. Storming the court is never acceptable. It's dangerous. It puts the idiots that are storming the field in trouble. It puts the kids who are trying to get off the field. Georgia's offense, the first string, or just the offense, they told them to leave the field with 15 seconds to go. It had already stormed the field. It was dangerous. And, you know, I was talking to another reporter, and he said, I've never seen us field storming. I said, well, you know, leave your stuff here because it's going to get crushed. And it's very, very dangerous. And I understand tonight is going to be a special night in Oxford, and I get that. But the storming of these fields and facilities, that's got to stop.
17 Auburn? They rushed the field, right?
I don't remember. Kentucky, you know. I mean, I've been around for plenty of them. And I don't know if this one was any different than that, but, you know, we got to quit acting like Ole Miss is like some
fine institution.
Well, I never accused it of that, but like
I did.
Some genteel like no, it's not like that at all. And I think that's what this Mississippi State people are like. No, they're not like that. They're just.
I didn't know people thought that in the first place.
Oh, I think there's that notion out there. I want to go to a Southern.
I guess I've had a very different perspective of Ole Miss.
Which is what?
It's just a party school in the middle of nowhere.
It's a hoity-toity.
That's hoity-toity.
Yeah.
And
which is close to hotty-toddy. Is that hoity?
It's the most hoity-toity school in the league. But you're not hoity-toity if you're a sorority girl saying, I think you're more of a bitch than your girlfriend. Like, that's like, have we digressed that much as a society? And I think the answer is yes.
Can we define hoity-toity?
Hoity-toity is Charleston. Yeah.
I just never thought about Ole Miss that way, I guess.
Hoity-toity, I've lived this world a little bit, unfortunately. It makes me very uncomfortable.
Hoity-toity
is King Street in Charleston, or where your kids have matching monogram things for pictures. Everybody has the same. You have the white tops and the blue pants for the beach pictures and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and God bless you. There's probably plenty of people that are hoity-toity that watch this. You know that we have. Oh, we're going to go to the Grove and all this. Can't you just go to the football game? You know, I can't. Like, I'm not hoity-toity. I'm not anti-hoity-toity. Well, but it's just like after a while, you know, you're not both. You can't be saying some of these things that are coming out of your mouth.
You can't be aggressive and hoity-toity. Those
I think that's exactly a good way to put it.
You can't be aggressive if you're hoity-toity.
You know, you've got Louis. You're wearing Louis, or you've got Vineyard Vines, or Matt's favorite, which is
what is it? What is my favorite?
The Louis. What is the Louis?
Oh, that's me, man. I'm wearing the
Lululemon.
You're not calling that hoity-toity. I think your Vineyard Vines.
Vineyard Vines is definitely
Vineyard Vines, Southern Tide, Southern
all
Marsh.
that whole thing. And like, but some of the stuff that's coming out of your mouth. And I mean, I was really bad in college. I'll say that. But anyway, I just
Vineyard Vines. We will wear your stuff on camera.
I do not hear that at Georgia. I'm not sure I hear that at Tech. You don't hear it at Auburn because the kids are so far away. I hear it at South Carolina. Carolina is a very aggressive fan section. LSU, but I expect it. I think LSU's like, I mean,
that's exactly what you expect.
No disrespect here, but I think LSU's like, yeah.
That's why they have this thing with Ole Miss. You have the
It's
trash
totally
and the hoity-toity
Yes.
combined, and that's where they can't get along. Two different
They're like,
worlds.
yeah, we're Cajuns and we don't care. What's your problem? You're from Mississippi.
They've got a swamp grove over in Baton Rouge. They
I
do the
tell
grove
you.
a little different over there.
I mean, I understand why the state people are like, you know, but it's just we got to quit elevating Ole Miss like it's more this, that, or that. It's kind of I've seen that for so long, and I know I'm only talking to like a couple people here, but it's kind of time to bury that whole notion. But they got to win next week. If they don't win next week,
Yeah, no, they're out if they don't win next week.
I
No
just
question
don't see
about
how
it.
they recover.
No question about it. They're out if they win.
But I think they would be out. But let me just say this now. I mean, I can't stop talking. They should probably still be in if it's the best 12 teams, even if they lose next week. But that's not what we're doing. We're not doing that. We're doing this dumb thing where 5 teams get in and you take the next best 7. And they probably are still in that next best 7. But all they got to do is beat Tennessee. It's not like, you know, I mean, Tennessee will be number 5 or something like that. Georgia might be number 10. It's not like it's asking too much to go win that game at home.
I will say, don't expect a blowout because this team has shown
They
that they're
can't
not
do
blowing
it.
anyone out.
No,
All right, if
no.
they win, it's going to be a fourth quarter game.
they're not blowing a good team out.
So it's going to be a really tight game next week.
Good team. Who the hell have they blown out?
Clemson, but they're not a good team. Our standards for good in this car are higher than the average standard, and Clemson's not a very good team. In my
No.
opinion.
We have to
But
hold
we watch
Georgia to
we
a
watch
high
SEC
standard.
football on a weekly basis. So,
Well, I mean, Tennessee's goofing around with Mississippi State, but they're going to win that game. So I'm not. I mean, 20-7 is not totally goofing around, but that was very similar to the score at the half for Georgia with Mississippi State. And Georgia got up 24, and then State was like, "Oh, well, we're gonna throw the ball around the whole."
I will say this: a big crowd will be helpful next week. I know Georgia just kind of got their ass kicked tonight.
Georgia's
but
hoity-toity crowd, which there's plenty of them too.
They need to show out next week.
This is not Augusta.
Yeah.
It's time. It's go time. They need you.
At night,
They
there's
need
no
you.
excuses.
They
So,
need you. And I don't.
and Kirby says it all the time. They feed off the
It's
crowd.
time
at
for
home.
Kirby to get these guys pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, it's the whole staff,
Yeah.
including Kirby.
I mean, Kirby's an exceptional head coach, but they got their ass whipped tonight. They earned that loss.
They earned the criticism.
They earned the credit. I mean, I don't. What is our criticism? My number one criticism is the offensive line is not playing the way that the Georgia offensive line is expected to play. Particularly what we thought it would be coming into this season. And I know there's been a lot of, you know, dancing on that line because of injuries and so forth. But you know, I can only be sort of reassured by this person's coming back after a while. You know, what are you recruiting for? You're recruiting offensive line to knock people off their ass. That's
Yeah.
not happening.
I don't get a lot of things with the offensive line. I don't get why Ratledge is out there in the first place if he's not 100% and you're rotating anyway. I really don't get it. They know more than I do, significantly more in terms of that, but I don't
Why would you pull
understand.
out on us and then stop?
It's moving a little bit now, but that was
But
a
like
lot.
everybody's braking because of your U-turn. Selfish. It's aggravating. I will give Ole Miss great setup, outstanding. The parking, that pavilion, that basketball facility is freaking outstanding. That is perfect.
Yeah.
That thing is perfect for what Ole Miss is doing. The way that they've got the parking right by Hemingway Stadium needs some work, but you know, but they've improved it a lot over the years. I've been going to Ole Miss since 06 or 3, whenever it was. I don't know. And they've done a good job around there. It's the only place I think Kirby's played more than once and it's never won. So I don't know, but I think the way that the setup was really good for us. Post game locker room was not great, but
Team just didn't have it today. It's not the first time we've said that.
they need to start running the ball. And if ETN's going to get hurt, if ETN's sidelined, you got Ratledge sidelined. You know, but still, man, like you can't. You know, like it's kind of.
I'll say this real quick. It felt like that 21-22 team on both offense and defense. It felt like they had 12 guys. Like that's how good they were playing. It just felt like they were playing at another place and playing with an extra person. That's how good they were. This team doesn't have that at all. Every game's a fight. Nothing's comfortable. Nothing's easy. It's a grind from the opening kick And they're gonna have it's gut check time. Got to win next week.
Sure. They've got to beat Tennessee.
It's must win. We kept saying at Alabama, it's not a must win. It's not a must win at Texas. It's not a must win at Ole Miss. It's a must win now. They put themselves in that situation. It's win or playing the Gator Bowl or something like that. That's what we're looking at here.
Yeah. It would probably be the Citrus Bowl, I guess. I don't know.
We'll see in Tampa or Orlando or something like that. We won't see us
in Tampa for very long. I'll tell you that right now, because it's got. But I think they'll make the playoff. But as Ryan and I were talking about, I mean, they may go on the road. I mean, there's a lot.
They probably will.
I don't know if probably is the right adjective I would use.
There's a lot of football.
There's no, we don't know. I mean,
we don't know.
I mean, like is 10-2 Georgia with. We don't. The problem at the FC, I have not written this yet, but the people at the SEC office are kind of jumpy about this situation right now because we don't know if we got a bunch of teams with 2 losses and you're trying to determine who's going to go play in the SEC championship game. I'm not sure if you can know who the winner would be of the 2-loss carousel. So you could have Ole Miss, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia all tied with 2 losses at the end of the year, and A&M, by the way.
So if A&M beats Texas,
then Texas would have 2 losses.
There's a whole tiebreaker process that they emailed us at the beginning of the season. We'll have to go back.
It comes down to coin tosses.
Yeah, I don't think.
So it could come down to a coin toss, but it's.
I'm here for the chaos, by the way.
Well, I'm not if the best teams are left out, and I'll tell you right now, if the SEC doesn't get the appropriate amount, I will be. It's not right. Then why are you playing the schedule you're playing? I mean, Oregon hasn't played a difficult schedule.
No, I'm gonna send them a nasty email. They'll get it right.
They don't care, but they're not gonna. I mean, to borrow a phrase from Ryan's favorite, the college football playoff understands the assignment. They're not gonna let. They're not going to let the giant brands.
It's giving.
Stay out. I mean, Super Skibbity, Total Ohio.
All right.
Are we done?
That might be the end of the
video. Thanks for watching. Yeah. Thanks. Go ahead, Ryan and Matt.
No, we're good.
Oh, now we're good. Okay.
See you guys.